This is Dr. Halden at Ridgeview Observatory. If you can hear this message, please stay indoors and refrain from direct eye contact with the moon's surface. At 2200 hours, the moon began transmitting a unique spectrum of light not previously observed in the universe. Our instruments have detected patterns within the redshift, repeating patterns that suggest design. We recommend that you stay away from windows until we can determine if the event is communicative in nature.
Begin with our tale for today. Allow yourself a moment to think of the last time you gazed up at the moon. Did it feel harmless? Did it feel peaceful? Did it feel safe? Most nights, yes. But there are nights when the moon itself, shifts in its coloring. Nights when it doesn't feel harmless, peaceful, or safe. Nights when the world around you becomes silent. Not silent like you think you know silent, not silent like you think you feel, not silent like you think you hear. This is not a tale of superstition. It is not a tale of myths. It is not a tale of rumors floating around the internet. It is a tale of what happens when you do not listen to a warning that has been echoing throughout history, throughout cultures, throughout centuries. Don't look at the bloody moon. You will be told it is just sunlight passing through the atmosphere. You will be told it is just science, just physics, just nothing more. But what if there is something more? If you ever step outside for a lunar eclipse, when the air has an odd, heavy stillness, when the city goes quiet in an instant, whatever you're doing, pause. Don't stare too long. For sometimes, when you look up at the heavens, something's looking back at you. Welcome to 9 Lives of Fear. Turn off the lights and get comfortable. We're about to start.
The night didn't erupt with screams. It started with a hush so deep and still that you could almost believe the night itself was listening, waiting for something terrible to happen. I sat on the edge of the old, crumbling Harrington Hall, a lone outpost that only a few ever visited, rare visitors, as if a slice of night had been carved away. Since freshman year, this place had been my sanctuary. Quiet, up high, away from everything. On a clear night, I could pretend I was farther away than I truly was. There is, though, one night that stands apart. A night when the sky broke into stars, no smog, no haze, just a precise map of light against black, with a moon rising. It began like any ordinary moon, a pale, steady orb. Then a shadow started skimming its surface, nibbling at the edges, as if the moon itself was being eaten from the inside, lunar erosion. I toyed with the old brass telescope, savoring the weight in my hands, sharpening my view of the eclipse. But the light on the moon's face began to fade, as if someone had flipped a switch to darken it. And then it shifted to a rusty hue, like dried blood. The blood moon. All the urban legends, all the stories about what would happen to anyone who dared gaze at the face of the blood moon. And yet, as I stood there, a dull ache gathered behind my eyes, and I set the telescope aside to watch the eclipse with my naked sight. I removed the lens and looked up. The red moon was no longer a moon. It was a tear in the sky. Not a light, but a bleeding. It was not red. It was wrong. Too deep. Too thick. The sounds of the city disappeared. No cars. No wind. No sound of any kind. And the hum began. Not a sound that could be heard. Not a noise that could be felt. It was a vibration in my jaw, in my teeth. I tried to look away. I really did, but my neck would not turn. My eyes burned, wide and unblinking. The light was heavy, as if it was seeping inside of me, not shining on me. The moon pulsed, unnaturally slow. The stars around it lost all shine. They changed. My thoughts began to disintegrate, like pages ripped from a notebook. I couldn't finish my thoughts, as though someone had turned down the volume control on my mind. But I felt it. Not a god, nor a monster, but something enormous, cold, and observing. I was no longer Daniel Mercer, nor 21 years old, nor the student on the rooftop. I was nothingness, a void. I was grasped firmly, pulled back, and I landed on the gravel roof, breaking whatever spell had consumed me. "Danny, what are you doing?" Lucas's voice was far away, weak, and panicked. "You were yelling. It wasn't even your voice." I tried to speak, but my lips felt numb. I swear I could have sworn that the veins in my hands pulsed with a faint red light beneath my skin, but it was gone in an instant. However, I still felt the silence in my head, the space that was once filled with thoughts, now empty space. The moon is just a mirror. We trade light with it and nothing more. But when our planet passes in front of that light and makes the moon red, something in it feels ancient beyond all science. Yes, we know all about the physics of it. Our atmosphere deflecting that light, red colors deflecting in specific patterns. It's physics. It's pretty. And pretty is exactly our trouble. The stories of the blood moon are ancient and wide-ranging. In China, a dragon gnawed away at the moon. In Mesopotamia, demons were believed to feast on its light. In Europe, people stayed indoors when the moon went dark. But in all these stories, one thing is consistent. Don't look. Why? There are no clear answers and many consequences. Madness, violence, being seen. Psychologists have many theories about mass hysteria, stress, and a jumbled brain from sudden darkness. But read enough of these stories and the pattern will not stay silent. It is not the darkness we fear. It is the light. In a church document from 1674, there is a suggestion of an eclipse, as though a veil had been drawn over the town. People pour out into the square and look up to see the darkening of the sky. The world holds its breath and is suspended in midair. There are no words, only the growing silence begins to surround them. A man and boy look up in rapt fascination. Their eyes are glued to the sky. A wide, slow smile spreads across the face of the man, as though he were looking at something being swallowed up in the sky. There is a nervous, aimless silence in the streets by dawn, like a breath being held in the air. Silence remains. Words disappear into nothingness. In the ship logs of colonial Massachusetts, there are accounts of brutal battles between those who observed the blood-red moon. The sea is off balance. Its course is crooked and not quite true, as though being directed by unseen hands. There are many theories and beliefs in superstition and fear. However, one thing is clear. There is stillness, a breath is being held, and then violence that seems directed by the stars themselves. It is as though an eclipse brings something out in people that is buried deep in their own darkness. I know now just what cosmic dread is. It's not just the dread of how large space might be. It's the knowledge that something large has noticed you. When the moon turned red, my body responded before my mind had a chance to catch up. My heartbeat accelerated and then slowed into a dull thud. But the worst of it wasn't like that. The worst of it was the pain of not being alone in my own head. Like standing at the end of a long hall and looking back at myself. I had urges that weren't mine. Flashes of anger. A sudden urge to destroy something. To scream. I didn't act on them. But I knew how close I came. That red light wasn't just shining. It was pressing. And when it went away, something in me never quite came back. 6 months after the eclipse, the world continues to turn, but not we. I have caught snatches of video online, such as, "I felt different during the eclipse. I lost my mind for no reason at all." Did anyone else feel like they were not alone? There are clips from all over the map, of people stopping where they stood, looking up at the sky, faces aglow, bodies rigid, unmoving. And then life went back to normal. The reasons are simple, at least on the surface. Stress, economic anxiety, shared communal fear. But when the moon is high, clear, and bright in the dead of night, I could swear that the hum is echoing deep inside my teeth. And I find myself checking the mirror more frequently than usual. Do I see more, or do I see nothing at all? It is 3 years before the next eclipse. They will call it spectacular. They will broadcast it live. They will assure us that it is safe. But if you are out, exposed, and the moon is that deep, impossible red, then don't gaze at it for too long. Not too long at all. For it may be more than the light that is pouring into your eyes. It may be something on the other side of that light, looking back, prepared to see that you see it, to see you, back at them.
What's your take on it? Was it all just an eclipse, light passing through the atmosphere that changed from a silver hue to a red hue? Or was more going on here? We've all heard of people trembling at the sight of a blood moon. They boarded up their doors, their windows, warned their kids not to peek out at the spectacle in the sky. Perhaps they weren't being foolish at all. Perhaps they were being wise. Because the most frightening thing about today's tale isn't the silence, isn't the low hum, isn't even the change in the people who walked out into that light. It's the chance that nothing out of the ordinary happened at all. What if the blood moon doesn't call up anything from outside, but instead calls up something from within? The impending total lunar eclipse is drawing nearer. When the time comes, millions of people will gaze heavenward, cameras in hand, as the moon assumes a rich, haunting red hue. It'll be another spectacular event, and the vast majority of people will be just fine. Most folks. But if you find yourself outside that night, the world around you silent and still, a strange pressure building in the back of your mind, well, perhaps you should consider blinking. Just in case. Ever experience anything weird during an eclipse? Anything you can't quite explain, anything nagging in the back of your mind? Share your experience in the comments below. Sometimes the scariest stories aren't the ones we imagine, but the ones we finally tell out loud. This has been 9 Lives of Fear. And remember, not everything in the sky that's beautiful is meant to be seen. I'll catch you in the next story. You survived another tale from 9 Lives of Fear, but don't get comfortable. If the shadows whispered to you tonight, hit like before they whisper again. Share this video with someone who thinks they're brave. Let's see how long their courage lasts. And subscribe, because around here, every click feeds the darkness, and the darkness remembers. Where the shadows linger long after the story ends, stay scared.